Hey everybody! This time I'm doing something a little different. I actually did a video previously where I talked impromptu about the time a younger female coworker tried to force a kiss on the very lips I speak to you with and wouldn't take a hint that no means no. So yeah, not all men, some chicks too. But I had no script, and believe it or not, that was an awful choice on my part. I'm kind of like Doug Walker. He clearly needs a script to rein him in a little bit. I don't think I have much to talk about where I'm involved anyway, but I thought that a little personal story would help break the ice about who I am as a person and what I've gotten myself into. Also, since my theme is art, talking about old art teachers seems good enough. I think a lot of artists have a bad experience with an art teacher at least once in their life. My story is a little different, though. I debated with myself on how much of this was really my story to tell, but I think if I'm very careful and discreet about it, then it shouldn't cross a line. I also asked a few people if they were comfortable with me sharing this story, and they consented. Now that that's out of the way, I've had my share of art teachers that I have not been fond of. They never singled me out, I just never gelled with them or liked them very much. Recently I had a professor at my uni who was an interesting woman. Not a bad woman, just pretentious. The class I took with her was a series class, basically a do what you want, just make 10 paintings type of thing. But she started the semester off with, all right, here's what I don't want to see in this class. And we were all like, okay, hate speech, child exploitation. And she looked at us all in the eye and said, mermaids. I don't want to see any mermaids or fantasy art like unicorns or knights or dragons or video game fan art. She also told us that she didn't think that illustration was a valid form of art. I got to see her work. It was a giant wall-sized canvas. Painted black. That was it. That was the piece. People commission her, apparently. So for that class I painted a nice, fleshy schlong in a cup with a straw stuck in it like one of those Tropicana logos with no one but that class will ever see because I have no reason to post that anywhere. And she said that my work was fantastic and inspiring, so an interesting woman. But this story is not about her. This one goes a couple of years back when I was in community college. We had a decent one in my hometown, and I went to get my prereqs done there before transferring to my university. I always called it football college because everyone there was a jock who just wanted to end up in a big college football team and had to take other classes to reach the correct GPA. It wasn't a great community of people. The classes were mostly too easy, like high school classes, and the people were underachieving and immature. They didn't really care about learning. It did offer a couple of art classes, so I took drawing, painting, and ceramics. The man who taught drawing and painting is the one who the subject of this story is about. Let's call him Paul, because Paul Gauguin was a terrible person who is also an artist, and that seems to fit. I have a lot of great memories from Paul's class. I met my best friend in that class, as a matter of fact. Having never been in a real art class before, this was a new experience for me, and Paul seemed to take it seriously and gave us exercises and assignments that would help us to grow in some way. And he walked us through some techniques. I improved a ton in his class, as a matter of fact. Not as much as I've improved now, but for the time I had been able to branch and was encouraged and directed by a mentor, where before I'd just been teaching myself. So he seemed like a pretty competent art teacher, and he liked me, because I actually tried, and I liked him. I thought he was a cool espresso-drinking uncle who rode a motorbike and took no one's BS. Paul was married with kids, and the way he talked about his children, you could tell he liked them a lot. So I got a lot out of his class. I thought he was my favorite teacher ever and looked up to him like a hero. You probably think you know where this is going, and you're only half right. See, like I said, this is not my story to tell. I actually never interacted with Paul after that. I never sought him out. I'd kind of wave to him if I saw him and sing his praises if someone mentioned him, but he never really showed up in my life after that. So I got out of this with a good experience. Then I made a friend. Let's call her Jessie. Jessie was someone I made really good friends with while I was still at community college. She was way cooler than me. She had tats, she smoked, and yet she still wanted to hang out with me, which meant a lot to a sheltered little geek like myself. I'm not saying tattoos and smoking equals being cool. I'm just saying my vanilla self is very Coke bottle glasses and braces, sipping on a juice box. And Jessie was very leather, hair dye, drinking beer at the pool with a full moon, night shift at the convenience store kind of person. She was also nicer and more tolerant to people than I was. So what I'm saying is Jessie was adventurous and flexible, and I was stubborn and fearful, and that's about how opposites attract with that friendship. But if Paul was ever mentioned, she would get super uncomfortable. If I asked her why, she'd tell me that he was skeevy, and that's as far as she would go. Then finally one day she told me the details, which I will not give you, because that would be wrong. I think you have a general idea, though. She did not know that he was married or had kids until after the incident, which of course made her mad, and she cut all contact with him immediately because she's a good person. Needless to say, I was shaken and upset by this because, teachers should not be having that kind of relationships with students, ever, and he was old enough to be our dad, twice our ages at least. The idea that it could have just as easily been me was terrifying, even if it was extremely unlikely in hindsight. The sort of change of perspective can do a lot to a person. How often had I interacted with this man, and how much had I been oblivious to? I had to analyze what I remembered to reassure myself that I hadn't been in any potential danger. I think the biggest reason that I was safe was because Paul knew my dad. My dad worked in town. Paul was a smart enough man to stay away from kids whose parents were established. Jessie was a prime target for indiscretion because her folks lived hours away elsewhere, so she had no small town clout the way I might have. But you're probably wondering if we told the college about this. No. I don't think Jessie thought she'd have any impact, and I respected her wanting to not have anything more to do with the situation. One of our friends did go and talk to the administration, but he was a guy, and nobody really paid much attention to what he had to say. Then, Paul started sending messages to another female student of his by using the number she'd put in the syllabus. Taking advantage of the system. He was asking her to join him for drinks, and of course she complained to the administration, and only then was he fired. Here's another interesting little tidbit of information that is another reason I don't think I was being targeted. The girl in question who he was messaging looked like Jessie, and Jessie looked quite a bit like Paul's wife, who I saw him with in public a couple of times. So my favorite teacher turned out to be no good at all. Like, cue villainous laugh in the background, not good. Which is how he turned from best teacher to worst teacher pretty much overnight for me. And honestly, after that experience, someone telling me I can't draw a unicorn really doesn't measure up to that, no matter how much they wish they could. Is there a lesson to take from this? I can't say that I don't appreciate what I learned in that art class. Truthfully, though, I could have just as easily learned it from a much better person, and I wish that I had. It's not like he impacted me to never want to pursue art or grow my skills, and I still use the techniques I learned in his class. But I just realized that the sun didn't shine out of his crack as much as I'd thought. There's nothing wrong with looking up to someone, and I'm not saying never trust your teachers ever, but people are broken, and you can't rely on them to let yourself be really influenced by them. And I'm glad the exposure I got with this horrible man was minimal. I don't hate him. That's a waste of energy on my part. What he did is on him, and the damage that he did to his career and his family is his own fault, and he can't blame anyone but himself, and I think that's punishment enough. Jessie told me that Paul made her who she is, but I don't agree. She shouldn't give him that sort of credit, because he doesn't deserve it, and he doesn't deserve it from me either. So, take care, kids. Lesson learned, don't get involved with your college professors, because that's unethical, and you could get kicked out of school. Stay safe out there, y'all.
it strong enough to last. How can I ever make you feel enough to get us through eternity? How can I make the memory real enough for the day will be? Shadows of life cast by the rain, shadows of pleasure, shadows of pain, shadows of you cast by our love, shadows we two became shadows of. Look at my face before the sky goes blind, and try to memorize my smile. While we still have the stars, let's try to find happiness a while. Shadows of life cast by the rain, shadows of pleasure, shadows of pain, shadows of you cast by our love, shadows we two became shadows of.
If you want the picture of a charming prince, I take the cake. But now you find me all the more alarming, since I'm charming as a rattlesnake. My debonair and dazzling personality was like a dream. But now that you're awake, the harsh reality is things aren't always what they seem. Taken in by my dashing grin, you have failed to note the pointy teeth. I'm no fraud, but beneath this warm facade, I'm Prince Charmless underneath. Just look at what a perfect little royal pair we're gonna make. 'Cause everyone is absolutely unaware we two are both completely fake. You've been grand for the plots I have planned, and my gratitude's profound and large. Now's the time for the world